You probably face the Caro-Kann defense every day. But are you punishing your opponent's mistakes or falling for them? In this video, we're going through 10 distinct traps that catch players off guard constantly. We're moving beyond basic memorization to look at the why, the weak squares, and tactical themes that you need to spot in the first 10 moves. And I'm not just throwing moves at you. For every single trap, I've included a stat card analyzing its frequency, damage, risk, and the specific elo range it works best in. I've also ranked them by lich's popularity, starting with the uncommon ones and building up to the most common trap, which more than 500,000 players fall into. This is my third video of my weekly series covering every major opening trap, so let's make sure you never fall for these mistakes again. The first trap is the Goldman trap. Frequency, 65, damage, 100, risk, high, elo range below 1300. This trap comes from a tricky sideline called the Goldman variation. Number of players fallen into this trap, 1,100. We start with e4, c6, and we develop the knight to f3. They play d5. We take the pawn, and they recapture. Now, instead of playing d4 like everyone else, we play the aggressive horsey to e5. Black challenges our knight with their knight. We support it with d4. Black often decides to simplify the position and takes our knight. Here, we take back with the pawn. Now, Black develops their bishop to f5, controlling the diagonal. This looks perfectly sensible, but they have just gotten closer to a forced mate sequence. We play queen to f3. We are attacking the bishop on f5. Black naturally defends everything with e6, thinking they are solid. But this is a game-losing blunder. Boom! Bishop to b5 check. The king can't go to d8 because our bishop covers that diagonal, and they can't block with the knight because it's gone. They are forced to move the king to a7. We follow up immediately with queen to a 3 check. They have only one legal move to stop the check, which is to block with the queen on d6. We simply take the queen, queen takes d6, and that is checkmate. The second trap is the fantasy trap. Frequency, 74, damage, 90, risk, high. Elo range below 1600. This trap arises from the sharp and aggressive fantasy variation. Number of players fallen into this trap, 3,500. We start with e4, c6, d4, d5, and here we play the sharp f3 supporting the center. Black takes the pawn on e4, and we recapture with the f-pawn. Now, Black strikes back immediately with e5. A lot of players get tempted to take this pawn, but don't fall for it. Instead, we develop the knight to f3. Black takes our pawn on d4. We ignore it. We develop the bishop to c4, aiming directly at the weak f7 square. They bring their knight to f6, and we castle short to get our king safe. Black tries to develop actively by bringing their bishop to c5. Now we go on the attack. We jump our knight to g5, piling pressure on f7. Black castles, thinking they have solved all their problems, but they just walked into a tactical nightmare. Boom! Knight takes f7. They are forced to capture with the rook. We immediately follow up by taking the rook with our bishop, delivering a check. The king has to take our bishop. Now comes the sting. Queen to h5 check. This is a beautiful double attack. We check the king, but we are also staring right at that loose bishop on c5. The king retreats to g8, and we simply play queen takes c5. At the end of the chaos, we have won a rook in exchange for a knight. We have a safer king and a dominating position. The third trap is the exchange trap. Frequency, 82. Damage, 95. Risk, medium. Elo range, below 1400. This trap happens in the very common exchange variation where we punish Black for being a little too aggressive with their bishop. Number of players fallen into this trap, 8,300. We start with e4, c6, d4, d5. We take the pawn, and they recapture it. We develop our knight to f3, and they bring their knight to c6. We play the solid move c3. Here, Black tries to be active and pins our knight with bishop to g4. We respond by pinning their knight with bishop to b5. Black plays a 6 to support the center and make a way for their bishop later. Here, we play the annoying move queen to a4, putting immediate pressure on their pinned knight. Black naturally tries to defend everything with queen to c7, protecting the knight and unpinning themselves. But this is a blunder. Boom! We play knight to f5. We are attacking their bishop on g4, but more importantly, we are piling up on the knight. Black sees their bishop is under attack, so they retreat it to f5. Now we cash in. We take their knight with ours, they capture back with the pawn. We follow up with bishop takes the pawn, but this time with a check. The king is forced to move to e7. And now we simply snag the rook in the corner with our. We are up a full rook, and black's position is completely ruined. The fourth trap is the two knights trap. Frequency, 84. Damage, 87. Risk, low. Elo range, below 1200. Number of players fallen into this trap, 10,000. We start with e4, c6. We develop the knight to f3. They play d5. And here we play nc3, the two knights variation. Black takes our e4 pawn, and we recapture it with our knight. A very common response for black here is bringing their bishop to c5, attacking our knight. We respond by kicking the bishop back with knight to g3, forcing it to go back if he went back to g6, hoping he can remain at the good diagonal. We play h4, threatening to trap their bishop. Black usually makes a room for the bishop with h6. Now, the trap begins with knight to f5, aggressively eyeing the weak f7 square and the bishop. Here, many players instinctively retreat the bishop to h7 to keep it on the long diagonal. This is a critical mistake that has been played over 262,000 times according to the Licious database. We immediately launch the attack with queen to h5, threatening checkmate on f7. Black's only good way to stop it is g6. We ignore the threat on the queen, and we reload the threat with bishop to c4, again eyeing mate on f7. Black is forced to play e6 to block the bishop. Now for the incredibly tricky move, queen to e2. It looks like we are just tucking the queen away, but we are preparing a massive sacrifice. In this position, if black plays a natural developing move like bishop to g7, boom! We hit them with knight takes f7, sacrificing the knight. Black has to take the knight with the king, or he will lose one of his pieces. So, we follow up with taking the pawn with our queen, forcing the king to its only legal square, f8, and we finish the game with queen to f7 checkmate. The fifth trap is the Karpov trap. Frequency, 85. Damage, 99. Risk, medium. Elo range, below 1500. This is one of the most beautiful traps in the entire Caro-Kann, which more than 11,000 players fall into. We start with e4, c6, d4, d5. We play knight to c3. Black takes on e4 and we recapture with the knight. Here, black plays the solid knight to d7, known as the Karpov variation. We play the aggressive knight to g5, eyeing for the weak f7 square. Black usually plays h6, thinking they are simply kicking our knight away, but they have just blundered the game immediately. Boom! We slam the knight into a 6. This knight is untouchable because the f-pawn is pinned to the king by our queen's diagonal. They have two options here. Option 1. The main trap. If they blindly take the knight with the f-pawn, it is mate in 2. We play queen to h5 check. They are forced to block with g6, and we finish them with queen takes gi6 checkmate. Option 2. The long option. If they are smart and see the mate, they might try to save themselves with queen to a 5 check. We simply block with bishop to d2. They move the queen to b6 to attack our b-pawn. We ignore the pawns and develop with bishop to d3. If they get greedy and start munching pawns with queen takes b2, we chase them with rook to b1. They take the other pawn, but now comes the punishment. We play knight to c7 check. The king is forced to d8, and we gobble up the rook in the corner with the knight. We are up a full rook and completely winning. The sixth trap is the queen sacrifice. Frequency, 85. Damage, 97. Risk, medium. Elo range, below 1600. We are moving up the ladder to a trap in the advanced variation. This trap also got 11,000 player fallen into. We start with e4, c6, d4, d5, and we push the pawn to e5, the advanced variation. Black challenges the center immediately with c5. We solidify our center with c3. Black develops the knight to c6, and we bring our knight to f3. Here, black usually pins our knight by playing bishop to g4. This pin is annoying, but we are going to use it against them. We play d takes c5. This looks like a simple trade, but it baits black into a massive blunder. Black sees that our knight on f3 is pinned to the queen, so they think, free pawn and putting more pressure? So they take our bait. They think they are safe because our knight can't move. Or so they think. Boom! We ignore the pin completely and play knight takes a 5. We are hanging our queen. Black will snap it up instantly with the bishop. Now the punishment begins. We play bishop to b5 check. Black is in big trouble. The only way to stop the check is to sacrifice their own queen, so they are forced to play queen to d7. We take the queen with the bishop, delivering another check. The king has to move to d8. Finally, we calmly take their bishop without king. At this point, the game is over. Not only have we won 2 minor pieces for free, but look at the board. There is no way for him to save his rook. We are threatening to jump our knight to f7 with check, which forks the king and the rook on h8. Even if he tries to run, that rook is doomed. The 7th trap is the center bait trap. Frequency, 88. Damage, 50. Risk, low. Elo range, below 1800. This one, white only, wins a pawn, but it is common, and gives you a fantastic advantage right out of the opening. Number of players fallen into this trap, 19,000. We start with e4, c6, knight to f3, d5, and knight to c3. This is the 2 knights attack again. Black frequently plays bishop to g4, pinning our knight. We simply break the pin with bishop to a 2. Now here's the mistake. Black sees our knight on c3 and thinks they can kick it away and gain space, so they push d4. They think our knight has to move, but we have a tactical surprise. Boom! We play knight takes d4. We just took the pawn for free. They cannot take our knight with their queen, because then we will take their bishop. So naturally, they trade bishops first with bishop takes a 2. But we don't take back with the queen. We take back with the knight. Now look at the board. We are up a clean, healthy center pawn. We have 0 weaknesses, and our position is rock solid. It's not a checkmate, but at a high level, being up a center pawn for free on move 6 is basically a winning game. The 8th trap is the Panov trap. Frequency, 93. Damage, 97. Risk, low. Elo range, below 1500. This trap happens in the aggressive, accelerated Panov attack. Number of players fallen into this trap, more than 86,000. We start with e4, c6, but instead of playing d4 immediately, we play c4. This is the accelerated Panov. Black strikes back in the center with d5. We take the pawn, they recapture it. Now we play d4. Black develops their knight to c6, putting pressure on the center. We take their pawn on d5, and they take back with the queen. Then we develop our knight to f3. Here, as you guys guessed, Black tries to be annoying by pinning our knight with bishop to g4. We calmly unpin by bringing our bishop to e2. Now, Black thinks they have found a clever tactic to win a pawn. They play bishop takes f3, removing our defender. We recapture with bishop takes f3. They see the free pawn on d4 and think it's free for the taking because our queen is defended by the knight, but it's a huge blunder. Boom! We hit them with bishop takes c6 check. And if you think, who will fall to this trap? Actually, there's a 3,000 rated player fall into this, although it was a bullet game, but it still counts. So we are removing the defender of the queen with check. They have absolutely no choice but to capture our bishop with their pawn, and now that the defender is gone, we simply pick up their queen. Game over. The 9th trap is the Royal Discovery. Frequency, 95. Damage, 96. Risk, medium. Elo range, below 1400. For this trap, we are going to use a sneaky gambit line that catches everyone off guard. Number of players fallen into this trap, more than 170,000. We start with e4, c6, and we develop the knight to f3. They strike in the center with d5. Instead of the usual main lines, we play a quiet-looking move, d3. Black sees a chance to win a pawn, so they usually take our pawn on a 4. But here is the twist. Instead of taking back, we jump our knight to g5, attacking the pawn but also setting a deep trap. They will likely continue capturing, taking our pawn on d3. We calmly recapture with the bishop. Now, Black plays the most natural developing move on the board, bringing their knight to f6, This looks completely safe, but it is actually a blunder that instantly loses the game. Boom! We strike with knight takes f7. We are forking the queen and the rook, so they are forced to take our knight with the king. Now for the finisher, we play bishop to ge6 check. This is a discovered attack. By checking the king, we force him to move or capture our bishop. It doesn't matter what they do, we simply take their queen, winning the queen and the game on the spot. The 10th trap and most common trap is the tall trap. Frequency 99, damage 85, risk low, LO range below 1100. This trap happens in the advanced variation and it is purely designed to punish lazy development. Number of players fallen into this trap: more than 509,000. We start with a4, c6, d4, d5, and we push to e5, the advanced variation. Black brings their bishop out to f5, which is the most common move. Now we play the aggressive h4. This is known as the tall variation. We are gaining space and threatening to harass that bishop immediately. Here's where the blunder happens. Black often plays e6, simply wanting to develop their other bishop, or they're playing too much London. We immediately pounce with g4, attacking the bishop. Here, black might retreat it or go to e4, but it's the same result. Let's say they go to f4, we play f3, attacking it again. The bishop is forced back to g6, and now the final nail in the coffin, h5. The bishop is completely trapped. It has literally nowhere to run. Black is forced to sacrifice to gain at least a pawn. We simply capture back with the rook, and we are up a full piece within the first 8 moves. And those were 10 traps to punish the Caro-Kann defense. I upload every single week. Next week we are going to cover 10 French defense traps, so if you don't want to miss that, just subscribe. I am still new here, so please let me know in the comments. How was the video and what should I change? Even a simple comment helps the channel grow massively. Thanks for watching, and see you next week, nerd.